Hi everyone, it's Pam, the naturalist from Wildwood Ecoforest. I recently had the really cool chance to participate with some other socially distanced volunteers in a bat count at Wildwood. We have bat colonies at Wildwood that used to live in the attic of the house, but when the house was renovated, we put up bat houses to encourage them to move to a little bit more of a convenient location. So I'm here today with biologist Trudy Chatwin to talk a little bit about the bat colony at Wildwood and what we found out on the bat count. Hi, Trudy.
Hello, Pam.
Thanks for talking to us about the Wildwood bats.
You're very welcome. I'm very interested in the Wildwood bats. It's really a great place, and we found out lots of neat things. At Wildwood, we have little brown bats. The bat colony at Wildwood, the maternity colony, because the ones in houses are always maternity colonies with mothers and pups, it was in Merv Wilkinson's old house. This was quite a large colony, obviously, inside the homestead house, and either because they make a lot of noise and they do a lot of eating of insects, so they do a lot of pooping of insects.
I don't want that in my house.
No, people do not want them in the house, and it's better if they're outside, but in a good habitat. But houses provide a lot of, they provide security and they provide warmth for mothers and pups.
So we made better habitat for them at Wildwood. This is some of the bat poop that Trudy mentioned, which used to be found inside the house. But when the house was renovated, we put bat houses on the outside of the house. So now the poo is useful because it tells us that the bats are using these houses, which are mounted on the outside of the house. So the bats have habitat and we have a clean attic.
Well, it's important to know whether actually providing the alternate housing for the maternity colony of bats at Wildwood actually worked. It's excellent habitat around there because there's a lake, and the bats feed on emerging insects and take a drink from Quinnell Lake, and so it was important to know if that the bat houses that were provided for the bats were suitable.
So to find out if the bat habitat was suitable, a few volunteers gathered in the orchard and also next to the house in early August. This was the second bat count of the year to find out if the bats were using the houses. Now at the bat count in June, they had seen lots of bats and corresponding with all of the poop that we saw earlier in the video. And in our August count, we saw these bat houses that you can see here in the orchard were actually where the bats had been hanging out. So we saw over 100 bats emerging from these boxes in the orchard. We stood there for a while and you could see them flying out from underneath the boxes. So if you watch, you're going to see the bats dropping down and swooping out and flying around as we counted them. We got over 100 bats here, all of them little brown bats, and unusually didn't see any bats at all in those houses I showed you earlier on the homestead, even though in June that's where most of the bats had actually been. So there were like 300 bats on the house in June, and on this night in August we saw over 100 bats in these orchard boxes, but no bats at all on the house. So I asked Trudy a little bit about what she thought was happening. It seems like maybe some of the bats were around at Wildwood still, but just not using the boxes, do you think?
Yes, I do believe that. Some of the bats, because we had a good stretch of warm weather, I believe that maybe the bat house on the homestead maybe became too hot, or the bats all fledged earlier, or something happened. But they left that house and obviously took up residence in the other house because there was only 35 bats there in the June count. And the lake in August was also absolutely nuts because all of the insects were emerging and there was just a heap of bat activity. So they changed. That's why it's important to have a bat box here and a bat box there, because they like. Well, if you don't have bats in your house already, it's not likely if you put a bat house on your house that it will actually work. Bat houses apparently don't work on trees either, so that's a question. They just don't. I guess it's too shady. The bats like a little space around them, so they like to be. And the placement of bat houses is very important. So we have a BC Bat Community Bat Program. If you look up on the internet BC bats. You'll find quite a bit of information about bat houses and where to put them and the information that we have on bat houses, because bats are super important in insect control. They can eat thousands of mosquitoes a night.
Yeah.
And if, say, these 100, even 300 bats at Wildwood really does help with mosquito control.
Thanks, Trudy. And thanks you guys for watching this video. I hope you learned a little bit more about bats, and maybe you're even inspired to help protect some bat habitat in your own backyard ecosystem. See you in the next video. Another one.
They're really flying around too.
Ooh.